4, 3, 2, 1. Happy Friday. Testing the button, testing the button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hello, welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Tahisha Moyes, joined by Maddie Gardner and Eric Chilton. This is an interactive newscast where we are live streaming both on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Use the conversation 4 to 5 as you join the conversation with us today.
We want to start off with the big story this afternoon because we're watching the weather, Eric, the remnants of what was once Hurricane Laura, now possibly heading toward the Triad. What's going on?
Yeah, really for us, it's just a giant area of unsettled weather that could get a little volatile. I will say this, the good news that the National Weather Service has changed us to more of a marginal risk for severe weather than a slight risk, which is a downgrade a little bit, but still the chance that we could have severe weather definitely exists. Look at the radar, you can clearly see where this area of weather is, and it's in the western parts of Tennessee, also central Tennessee, Nashville starting to feel the effects of this, or at least that area. I want to show you a quick look closer to home. These are just pop-up showers and thunderstorms that we're seeing, but still mostly mountain and foothill communities. We do see a little bit in the Yadkinville area and up to Allegheny, Ash, Watauga, and northwestern Wilkes County. Now, we mentioned this severe thunderstorm risk really from Raleigh to the coast is where it is at a slight risk, and now the Storm Prediction Center puts us in the marginal risk for all of our viewing area. Does that mean that we let our guard down? Absolutely not. We still could see rain, maybe even a half an inch to an inch, wind gusts 25 to 40 miles per hour. This could be higher in very isolated areas. And there's still a possibility of heavier thunderstorms and a small tornado threat with this entire system as it clears the area. So look for windy conditions on Saturday. Isolated storms could be scattered throughout the day. We do believe that if you look at the timestamp here, I think the actual front itself, it may not clear us until Saturday night late, but still it will take the entire day on Saturday for us to kind of let our guard down. Sunday actually ends up being a beautiful day, lower humidity with that high pressure in control. We'll tell you about the rest of the forecast, our 7-day extended outlook coming up.
Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup right now. Less than 24 hours after heading out, members of the Greensboro Fire Department's Swift Water Rescue Team are back home. Both the Greensboro and Charlotte teams deployed to Louisiana last night to help in the aftermath of Hurricane Laura, but officials say the extra help was not needed. The storm surge was less than anticipated, and therefore less water rescues have been performed. The Louisiana governor says the cleanup process will be like a marathon in the wake of Hurricane Laura. Hundreds of thousands of people are now without power or running water. One of the strongest storms to ever hit the U.S. left its mark on just about every part of Lake Charles, Louisiana. President Trump says he will visit Louisiana and Texas this weekend to tour the damage. 4 people tested positive for COVID-19 at the Republican National Convention in Charlotte. Now, 2 were attendees and the other 2 were event support staff. Officials say they immediately isolated at home. Before the convention, which was mostly made of Republican delegates, everyone was asked to quarantine for 14 days. Everyone was also tested as they arrived to Charlotte. Today, more free laptops made it into the hands of Guilford County students in need. For weeks, the group I-Align has been collecting devices, refurbishing them, and then getting them to students. Several local Triad districts, including Guilford County, say there is a laptop shortage and they are in need of donations to make sure students have a way to learn remotely. Hear more about today's device drive coming up on WFMY News 2 at 5.
Tracking COVID-19 in North Carolina will be more important during the next 2 weeks as state health leaders and Governor Roy Cooper decide if we're ready to move into phase 3 of our reopening plan. So let's take a look at the latest numbers. Today, 1,400 new cases were reported, bringing the state's total to more than 162,000 since the pandemic started. Now, the state presumes the large majority of those people have already recovered. But sadly, more than 2,600 North Carolinians have died from COVID-19 and at least 970 are currently in the hospital. A statewide order from Governor Roy Cooper, of course, shut down gyms back in March, and for the most part, they've been closed ever since. We are still in phase 2 of that reopening plan, and that keeps gyms closed, including Fearless Fitness in Greensboro. Co-owner Carol Hall says she understands that health and safety have to come first right now.
Isn't contained, and so you still got to think about health and safety, and even in fitness, right? That's why we do what we do, but we have to be cognizant of a lot of our clients' immune systems, different things like that. So even going back to normal, it's a new normal, and then with this everything changing so much.
Well, North Carolina is one of the last states to reopen gyms. The plan right now to reopen them in phase 3, and again, that's slated to begin on September 11th. Now you may be asking, why have you seen some gyms open right now? There is a loophole in a letter from the state attorney general that allows anyone who has been prescribed exercise by a doctor to use a gym. The thing is, employees aren't allowed to ask you if you have a doctor's note, so this is all based on an honor system. Not all gyms are using this to open their doors, but some are. As for Hall, she says she's had to get creative.
My thought process is health and fitness, especially now, still should remain a priority. And I mean, if we're not aware of how important our health and, making sure we're doing all the right things, and exercise has been proven time and time again to be one of those preventative measures with disease and building your immune system. So I think it will still remain relevant. I think how we do fitness and how we do a lot of things, may change slightly. Obviously, we have to, adjust with whatever new normals, but I don't see it, going out of the picture or anything like that.
And at the start of this month, we asked Governor Roy Cooper if he planned to crack down on gyms that are opening, and he said the way that the law is written means enforcement falls to local agencies.
So this is not the update that Tar Heel fans were hoping to hear. UNC officials announced that no fans will be allowed at the games until at least October. Now, this will impact sports with games in September, like football, cross country, field hockey, men's and women's soccer, and volleyball. Tailgating will also not be allowed on campus. School officials say they will continue to work with medical experts and say they are hopeful to get more people back in the stands maybe later on this fall. Well, Panthers rookies are preparing for the NFL season, which, by the way, is only 2 weeks away. Defensive end Yetur Gross-Matos is one of those rookies. Before landing in the NFL, Gross-Matos went through some pretty tough times. WFMY News 2's Amanda Ferguson got a chance to talk with him about his experiences and how they motivate him.
Tragedy after tragedy. That's one way to describe Yetur Gross-Matos' childhood. He walks me through one of the most horrific days of his life.
There's certain things about that day, I'll never forget. Just like about the smell in the air. And for a long time, I avoided the place.
It was a tragedy Yetur Gross-Matos saw up close when he was 10 years old, just minutes after his Little League baseball game ended due to a storm. That same storm took the life of his older brother, Khalil, instantly.
Terrifying. His body was struck by lightning, and his clothes were blown off, skin burnt.
They were 2 years apart.
He was my best friend, my superhero. So to lose somebody like that for me was hard.
It was not the first time he had lost someone, though. At 2 years old, Yetur was in his father's arms when his father fell off a boat and drowned.
I never even had any memory of him. Blaming myself for a long time.
Emotions impossible to understand at a young age, but Yetur never let it define him.
I feel like you create your own destiny.
He did exactly that. Fell in love with football and turned the game into his passion.
Gross-Matos is there. He's got the sack.
It led him here to North Carolina.
With the 38th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Yetur Gross-Matos.
I think my dad would be really proud of me. Obviously he cared about me a lot. He gave his life for me. So eternally grateful for him. And then my brother, I don't think he'd believe it.
This summer, 11 years after his brother's death, he finally went back to that place, the place he's been avoiding.
I actually went back, during the quarantine to the field where it happened for the first time since. And it was just super peaceful out there. I think a lot of the things that I went through growing up, kind of made me a better person. Just showing me what's really important in life.
It gives us yet another reason to pull for the Panthers, doesn't it? And you can do that this weekend. Don't forget, Panthers fan, you can get your football fix. It is this weekend. Classic games are airing right here on WFMY News 2. Tomorrow, that's a big one, too. It's the 2015 Thanksgiving game at Dallas. That was a great game. Catch the action at 8 p.m. right here on WFMY News 2, the official station for the Carolina Panthers.
Still ahead, marching on Washington in the name of equality. The history behind today's gathering, plus the family of civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr. on what he would say if he were marching today. That's next. Today, thousands are gathering in the U.S. Capitol to march for change. The March on Washington is calling for change in our country in the way of criminal justice reform and racial equality.
Of course, it comes decades after a group gathered in 1963 for a civil rights march on Washington. At the time, activist Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the call for change. Our sister station in Washington, D.C. spoke with King's son about the push for equality that's still happening today.
You know, the hope that I got and derived from my father was just watching him interact with people.
He's the son of a titan of the civil rights movement.
He always made time for everyone within the crowd, and it did not matter who you were.
One whose legacy still lives on.
It was a personification of a genuine desire to help and make a difference. And I think that's what he instilled within me.
Martin Luther King III reflects on his father's love and compassion for people, values that could bring light to the dark times of today.
We have to help lift each other up, change this climate, create what my father would call the beloved community.
It was 57 years ago when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other civil rights leaders instilled an invigorating hope in the hearts of more than 200,000 people, all who marched on Washington for jobs and freedom.
Check his pulse. Check his right. No, check his pulse.
But in the wake of recent tragic events like the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others, the focus of this year's march will be much different.
The irony of it is 57 years later, because of a pandemic, jobs is still very much part of the objective, but it is largely focused around police brutality and misconduct. We have got to learn how to apprehend suspects without shooting them or doing harm to them. We see this over and over and over and over again happening to Black folk and in communities of color. That is not acceptable.
If your father was alive and could speak at the march on Friday, what do you think he'd tell the crowd?
We would not be addressing these issues. We would be addressing new issues. And so I believe my father would be telling us the importance of participating in this election and even elections after this. He always said a voteless people is a powerless people.
Right now, there's some people who've lost faith in humanity, others even in police. What do you say to those who need some hope right now?
You have to love people. You have to love community to be able to help community.
The march also coincides with the anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, "I Have a Dream." His speech came at the 1963 march, where he called for civil and economic rights for everyone. Today, King's son, Martin Luther King III, spoke in Washington, D.C. He encouraged everyone to become what he called the heroes of history. Stay with us. The 4 to 5 will be right back.
You know, we're all looking for ways to de-stress during these times, aren't we? Well, leave it to our friends at the Community Theater of Greensboro to come up with a pretty cool idea. I spoke with Roz Fulton about their painting parties. Take a look.
Roz, when I first heard about this, and I said to myself, wait a minute, painting parties. I kind of like the sound of this. Let's talk about how you came up with this idea and then what it is.
Yeah, so we realized, everyone has been cooped up in the house for these past 4 or 5 months, and people want to get out and they want to enjoy doing something. So we came up with the idea of having, we did a ladies' night at first. So having a group of women come down to the studio and having a good time just painting and sipping a nice glass of wine. So it became something that was just an idea of a fun night out that is now kind of taking off and going in different directions.
So then let's talk about the process. When someone signs up for one of these things, and first of all, I'm sure there's some safety measures and social distance and that type of thing, but what will they experience when they do this?
So of course, when everyone enters the building, we take everyone's temperatures, and we do have everyone's social distance inside the space. So everyone has their own personal table, and they have their own paintbrushes. And again, it's just a fun night out of having a good time. Our next one will be, of course, with families, and just something to do to keep people entertained and something positive to do during this time.
Very cool, Roz. Thanks so much. You guys do great work. Have a good day.
Chilton, we can't hear you, unfortunately. Your mouth is moving, but no sound is coming out. But you can mime it out for us if you'd like to. But I really do think that this is a great idea and a new opportunity. I know that parents and kids have been in the house, remote learning and things of that nature. So I'm glad that they have this opportunity to go out and do something a little bit different. I think what Eric was going to say is if you want to sign up for one of these paint parties, you can check out this story on WFMYnews2.com. Even though we can't hear him, I know that he has posted all of the information there for you. The 4 to 5, we'll be right back.
Check, check. How about now? 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, it just said, I just looked at the Zoom interface. It said microphone not working, change sources, but I just unplugged it and plugged it back in. I have no idea. It's a Yeti. It's a good mic. Okay. Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Well, let's get right to a forecast with temperatures that really are pretty much on the money for where we're supposed to be this time of the year. Burlington, a little warm there at 93, but 87 in Greensboro, 87 Winston-Salem and High Point. Lexington and Asheboro agree at 88. It's 89 in Reedsville and Mount Airy at 84. Higher elevations, Galax in the mid-70s, very comfortable there. Clouds building in ahead of the system of what's left of Laura heading our way in the form of maybe some thunderstorms, possible severe weather, but definitely some rain for us. And that'll be moving in as we head into the morning hours. And I think it stays with us on and off, that possibility throughout the day Saturday, with the middle of the day probably be an afternoon being the most volatile. But 74 for the overnight low tonight. We look for, again, mostly cloudy skies, maybe a few showers. Showers and storms, some strong on your Saturday. We will be here, of course, to keep you posted. Winds could be an issue, gusting upwards of 40 miles an hour or so. That's what it looks like on the radar. It's moving into central Tennessee as we speak. We're noticing some watches and warnings out that way. Want to show you just closer to home, we do see a couple of showers in Yadkinville. Most of the thunderstorm type activity has been in the mountain and foothill communities. So from Sparta over to West Jefferson down to Boone, and then of parts of western Surrey County and Wilkes County as well. Statesville in line for another shower. Looking at the risk here, we are technically in the marginal risk for severe weather. That would be for the day on Saturday. The slight risk, which is slightly higher than marginal, is to the east of us from Raleigh all the way to our coastal sections there. It'll be a little bit more volatile. So we're all under that marginal risk, at least throughout the day on Saturday. If you're wondering about the impacts, rain, maybe half an inch to an inch. I think really we're more concerned about the winds getting up to 40 mile per hour, at least in gusts, higher if you have a thunderstorm. Heavy thunderstorm activity can happen. There is a small tornado threat, but it's enough that we have to watch that, don't we, and keep you posted. Here's what it looks like on the surface chart. Windy, stormy for the day on Saturday. Notice that cold front that sweeps it all out, and that makes for actually a beautiful Sunday with lower humidity. That high pressure to our north and west moves into place, and that'll take care of that and bring in, as we said, too, also the better humidity conditions. Let's skip to our 7-day. We'll show you mid 80s through your weekend, a big difference in those 2 days, but 50% chance of rain again on Monday with a cooler high of 78. Rain chances back to a normal 40% Tuesday and 85, and the rest of next week, slight rain chance, not a big one. Highs will be in the upper 80s where we should be.
The future of travel could be in self-driving and flying cars. So a company in Japan took a big step to get it off the ground, testing a self-driving car with someone on board, and it was flying through the sky. I want to make sure I mention that. Check out these pictures from the company SkyDrive. They got the flying car to hover off the ground for about 4 minutes. Right now, the battery life only lasts up to 10 minutes, but they're hoping to eventually get it to 30 minutes. If they can do that, these flying cars could be in use by 2023. All right, a flying car that could be in the air for a maximum of 30 minutes.
I mean, if it flies for 10 minutes, I can make it to
start
work.
the timer on your... Yeah, I guess that would be good, but what happens if something happens? I don't know. It just freaks me out. It just freaks me out.
Yeah, and since we don't have stop signs and turn lanes in the air yet, that's kind of a free-for-all. Yeah, we'll have to think about that. So we're not to Jetsons yet, Maddie, but we're thinking about it.
I can see you in one of these is what I was going to say. Cruising down Elm Street in downtown Greensboro.
As long as I'm driving it, I'm okay. When someone else is flying it, I don't want to be in it.
I don't want to be under it while you're driving it.
Yes, thank
Chilton.
you.
It's not a jab at you. It's a jab at the technology. Trust me. All right, join our conversation. Use our hashtag 4to5. What do you think about this? Too much? Really cool? We'll see you in the comment section.
Hey, welcome back to your 4 to 5, everybody. I'm Eric Chilton along with Maddie Gardner, Tahisha Moyes. We have a lot to talk about today, including what's been happening down to the south and back to the west of us too, Maddie. Big mess, but it's heading in our direction.
Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on the weather, but of course this is an interactive newscast. We want to chat with you on our live streams, and we will chat back. Just use our hashtag 4 to 5, and you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So Eric, let's talk about that weather. What are the chances for storms tomorrow?
So our chances are still pretty good as far as getting some rain and having storms. The question is going to be how many, who will see it when, that type of thing. I still think during the main part of the day, Saturday and afternoon is probably the target time that we'll see this, and definitely into from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's something we'll be watching. But look at the radar and you can see most of this is back to our west. It is moving to the east at a pretty good clip here. There's a cold front chasing behind it, which is good news for us in the long run because it'll help to sweep it out. But in the short term, makes things a little volatile as you take all that moisture from a tropical system, then add a cold front coming in behind it. So we could see those thunderstorms that could get a little bit rough at times. Closer to home right now, this is not necessarily associated with that, but we do see that in our mountain and foothill communities more along the lines of showers and thunderstorms. For now, the severe thunderstorm risk is in the slight area from Raleigh to the coast. For us, it's just marginal for the entire viewing area. That still means that we have to watch that Saturday first half of the day situation, maybe in half an inch to an inch of rain. That's not really the concern. It's more wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. And then the chance that we could see heavier thunderstorms. And there still, of course, is that small tornado risk. Again, first half of the day on Saturday into Saturday afternoon. And we'll be here to kind of man the ship for you and keep everybody posted.
All right, let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup this Friday afternoon. Tonight, organizers are hosting a rally calling for change in the name of Jacob Blake, the man shot in the back by police officers in Wisconsin. Now, the group says this is not a march, but a time for peaceful protest. It comes as new details about the shooting are being released. Justice Department investigators now say 2 officers used a stun gun before Blake was shot. That rally is happening tonight in Winston-Salem. And again, it's happening from 6 until 7:30 at Winston Park Square. Everyone who is going is asked to wear a mask and remain peaceful. We will have full coverage coming up tonight on WFMY News 2 at 6 o'clock. Tonight, a curfew goes into effect in Raleigh. The Raleigh mayor issued a citywide curfew in response to planned protests downtown. Demonstrations were widespread in the city after the death of George Floyd. That curfew is in place to make sure everyone stays safe. It is in effect tonight and Saturday night from 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. The NBA playoffs will pick back up tomorrow after players forfeited games in the name of social justice. The delay started on Wednesday when the Milwaukee Bucks announced they would not play in protest of the police shooting of Jacob Blake. That decision sent a ripple effect across the sports world. Other organizations also decided not to play, but the NBA says the playoffs will resume after meeting with both players and team owners. And Democratic nominee for President Joe Biden says he will debate President Donald Trump ahead of the November election. Earlier this week, Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi suggested that Biden should skip the debates, and it was a way to, quote, legitimize a conversation with the president. Biden also announced that he plans to start traveling for more in-person campaign events after Labor Day.
Next week, Guilford County schools will be opening learning centers across the county as a way to help students doing remote learning. Now, kids can be at these centers from 9 in the morning until 1 p.m. on school days. They will not be open on holidays or teacher work days. This is a free service, but advanced registration is required and seating is very limited. Students should plan to bring their own devices as there are a limited number of desktop availables. School leaders are also still working on a plan to help get kids food. On Monday, the free grab-and-go sites will end because the federal money being used to buy the food runs out. State superintendents met on Thursday to try and work on a new plan. They're hoping the federal government will step in and extend the waiver so the program will continue uninterrupted. We'll keep you updated as we learn more.
For weeks now, you've heard about coronavirus data coming from the state health department. I'm talking the number of cases, the percent of tests that are coming back positive, and the number of people in the hospital with the virus. But now there are new metrics. So if you go up to the dashboard menu at the top of their website and you click on testing here, you'll be able to find two sets of new numbers: the percent of tests that are coming back positive in each county and the average wait time to get a test result back across the state. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this. Guilford and Forsyth counties, their percent of positive tests, they're both hovering around 5%. Alamance County is closer to 8%. Remember, it is the state's goal to have 5% across the board, and right now the state average is about 7%. So you can check out that map. All right, let's go just below that to testing turnaround time. First, I want you to take a look at this yellow line, and you'll see the time it takes from being tested to getting results has been going down since the end of July. That is good news. Where it was taking an average of about 3 days to hear if your test was positive or negative, now it's taking just more than 1 day for you to get those results back. So why do officials care so much about testing and turnaround times? Well, because the more cases we identify and the faster we can get those test results back, the better we can slow the spread of this virus and get back to normal.
Well, some updates if you're planning any trips over the next few months. This is actually good news here. American Airlines will let you change flights that will be free of charge through the end of the year. So all trips that are booked before September 30th are eligible for this. Passengers, including those with basic economy tickets, are allowed to change or cancel upcoming trips one time without a fee. You can also change your destination without paying an extra fee, but you'll have to cover any of the changes in that flight price. And Virgin Atlantic is giving concerned flyers some peace of mind by offering coronavirus insurance coverage. The free protection covers up to $650,000 for medical expenses should you or your travel partner get COVID-19. The coverage is also good on Virgin Atlantic's partner airlines like Delta and Air France, just as long as you book through Virgin Atlantic's website.
All right, so maybe you're not ready to travel, but what about heading back into the office? Today, both of my coworkers, Eric and Tahisha, are at home. Maybe someday in the future, they'll be back here around the table in the studio. But I did want to know what you thought about this. For those of you still working from home, I asked you on my Facebook page, do you feel safe going back into the office? Or maybe you've been in the office the whole time. So how do you feel about this? We'll start with the comments here. David said, I have been working all the time and I feel safe coming to work. That's good. Melissa Cook says, yes, I've been going in with limited hours the whole time and I feel safe doing so. My time not spent in the office is spent working from home, which I hate. I'm ready to have my normal schedule back. Joe and Debbie Hallett said, we've been working the entire time and yes, I feel safe. We clean our office daily and we wear masks when it's necessary. And Richard Samples has an interesting perspective here. He says, as a school cleaner, I'm in the business of making the environment safe for the kids. So it stands to reason that it will also be safe for me and my immediate colleagues. We go back to school here next week. He lives in England. So it is an interesting perspective. I know many people have started that transition back into the office. Those working from home, you might have seen more faces here at WFMY News 2 here in the studio as well as we make that transition. So it's definitely something that we want everyone to be comfortable with. Tahisha, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this.
I mean, I'm okay coming back to work. I'm okay working from home. It's kind of funny because my feelings have changed over time. I remember when we first started, I was like, I hate it. I hate working from home. I hate not seeing everyone. But at this point, I'm kind of in my groove and I have a routine. So then it's almost like I would have to start a new routine again. But if that means I get to see you in the flesh, Maddie, I think I'm okay with that.
You know, we found Marissa Tansino, one of our evening reporters. She hasn't been here since March, and Chad Silber found a calendar on her desk yesterday from the last day she was in the building, and it was March 13th, and it was a Friday, and it was a little bit eerie to think about. It's been 5 months since we've seen some of our coworkers in person.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think I was looking at the calendar the other day. Don't quote me on the day, but I think it was March 27th was the last day I was in there, except for one time when I worked evenings to do weather for Tim Buckley when he had a day off. And it is so strange. But I have to agree with Tahisha. I'm okay either way, because now that I've kind of got a handle on this, I'm okay with it. But I do miss seeing everybody.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected it to last this long. I certainly didn't. I didn't think I would go 5+ months without being in the same room as you guys. So you were missed.
Yep. We will see each other again soon. All right, let's talk about something fun here, because today is an important day in the history of our state, and it all centers around a drink called Brad's Drink. We'll fill you in as the 4 to 5 continues.
I'll bet you didn't know that today is an important day in our state's history. Yeah, let's go through the Wayback Machine, and we're going back to 1893. New Bern pharmacist named Caleb Bradham developed and began serving a carbonated drink he called Brad's Drink until this date in 1898. He served the beverage from his soda fountain, which was in his pharmacy, by the way, at the corner of Pollock and Middle Streets in New Bern. As a pharmacist, he had a little bit of medical training, so he believed in the health and energy and even digestive benefits of his little fizzy concoction, which, by the way, originally included the enzyme pepsin and the cola nut. I think you know what this is. It's likely that those two ingredients, which were original in the soda, is how Pepsi Cola got its name. Now, after he renamed it from Brad's Drink to Pepsi Cola, he then incorporated it and made it a company, the Pepsi Cola Bottling Company, or Cola Company, I should say, in 1902 under North Carolina law. He got a patent for the formula. From there, this business, as you might guess, grew ridiculously fast. We're talking by 1910, it was being bottled in more than 300 companies in 24 states. But after World War I, the availability of sugar was an issue. Also, they had a bad bottling technique, we found out years later, and some bad marketing, and actually he had to sell the company, Bradham did, after World War I. Well, we know now it did not go away. Pepsi, through the years, no matter what the can is and what the logo looks like, has survived and is huge today. Not too bad for a New Bern pharmacist in the late 1800s. But tell your friends that today was the day that Pepsi got its name in North Carolina.
By the way, we know this today as PepsiCo, which is not just the soda, but a wide variety of products, and they bring in about $67 billion a year. I think they did okay, is the bottom line here. Yes. Okay, so I asked you on Facebook, we got to settle this old debate. I mean, it's been around forever, right? Coke or Pepsi? And people have their opinions, and boy, do they. Lynn Pugh says, Pepsi. Now, she says she remembers the commercials where they said, have a Pepsi day. She said, my young son thought that Pepsi Day was the name of the product, so he would ask his mom for a Pepsi Day. There you go. Betty says, Pepsi all the way. No soft drink compares, in my opinion. Cynthia says, Coke. I always loved the tingly burn it had over Pepsi. Linda Ferris says, Coke. My parents only bought Coca-Cola in small bottles when I was growing up, so I've stuck with Coke products ever since. Pepsi is too sweet. Lori Finney Hahn says, Coke, Pepsi, too sweet, but cherry Dr. Pepper, that's where it is. And Cindy Berry said, neither. Both are bad for you, which is probably true, but when I grew up, I would have. So I'm in the, I like both for different reasons. I like Diet Pepsi better than Diet Coke, but I like regular Coke better than regular Pepsi.
I think Pepsi is too sweet. I have to agree with some of the people who commented on your page, Eric. However, I feel bad saying that, being from North Carolina and Pepsi being from North Carolina and on their special day. So maybe I'll have a Diet Pepsi tonight just to celebrate.
Yeah, it's always very awkward when North Carolina things come up, and they're not personally my favorite. I don't really drink soda to begin with, so there's that. I'm with Sydney there that says both are bad for you, but if I'm gonna take one, it's gonna be the cherry Coke, not the regular Coke, the cherry Coke.
Yeah, you
I
always
can go with that.
I'll take anything at this point. I need a little bit of caffeine anyway, so maybe I'll go to the vending machine and grab that Coke, Pepsi, whatever it is right now.
That's exactly right. We're going to talk about our forecast coming up. Obviously, we're all watching what happens back to our west, or what's moving in our direction. It is the remnants of Laura, and now it's just the trouble is that we have this large area of rain and then a cold front chasing behind it, which makes things a little more volatile. We'll be watching this as we head throughout the day tomorrow, probably from the first half of the day, say until about 2 or 3 p.m. That's kind of our target, that we could see some severe weather. We'll be on top of this for you and let you know. It's about a 70% chance of seeing those heavier showers and maybe damaging winds as well. We'll be right here for you.
All right, everybody. This experiment has to do with acids and bases, and I've got Drew, my youngest, to help us out with this. The base that we're going to use is baking soda, easy enough to find in your refrigerator, of course. We're going to show you a demonstration using lime juice to show you the reaction between the two. But what else you'll need later is baking soda in a little tiny dish like this and some orange slices. That's simple. Now, the deal about acids and bases, oh, and Drew's ready. She's ready to go. The deal with acids and bases is that they react together. So the citric acid, and this is lime juice or orange juice or lemon juice or orange slices, will react with the baking soda, which is sodium bicarbonate, and there's a chemical reaction when you mix them together, and it creates bubbles or fizz like you get in like fizzy waters and sodas, right, Drew? And Drew likes to make a lemonade fizz, yes. Not with baking soda, but what happens is it creates carbon dioxide, which is what we exhale naturally, but also the bubbles in soda and fizzy water. So watch the reaction here. Here, let me make sure that we can get a close-up view of this. I might have to move this whenever it starts because it'll overflow. But watch how the baking soda will mix with the lime juice.
It's gonna overflow.
Yes, it is gonna overflow. Whoa, that's what happens. All right, let me get that out of here. So we don't, I know.
Oh, it sounds so cool.
Kind of fun, right? It does sound cool. All right, we'll put that to the side, but here's the big test. This is fun. Now, we have not done this yet, right? This is our first time trying this. So take an orange slice, and you can actually eat this, right? So we'll dip it in the baking soda. And get it on there a little bit.
When you think of it as baking soda, you don't think it's good.
I know. So do it over the plate, Drew, and we're going to take a bite and see if you can feel the fizz on your teeth, okay? So lean over the plate, and I'm going to do it too. You go ahead and get started. You get a head start. That's horrible. Okay, so it doesn't taste good.
It tastes like the crab cake that I
She said it tastes like the crab cake. That she just tried crab cakes for the first time and she hated it. Yes, so it does fizz up in your mouth. Doesn't taste good, but you feel the fizz. There's your demonstration.
It tastes horrible.
Okay, stop. That's your demonstration with acids and bases. I gotta go rinse my mouth out. Oh my gosh, Drew cracked me up at that. She was making horrible noises in the background. Let's talk about our forecast, shall we? With the satellite and radar combination, you see what's headed our direction. Technically, that's the remnants of Laura, but for us, it spells possible thunderstorms. There is a very small tornado risk at this point. Again, we're not calling for a massive outbreak or anything like that, but the chance of that does exist, and I think we all need to be well aware of that. So your first half of the day, Saturday, we'll be manning the ship for you and let you know what's happening. Mid-80s on Saturday. We'll clear out Saturday night. Lower humidity, lots of sunshine. Sunday's beautiful. Little rain Monday and 78, but back to a more normal pattern, mid to upper 80s for the rest of next week.
Still ahead on WFMY News 2 at 5, helping students be successful at virtual learning. The community group working to collect unused laptops and get them to students in need. That story is just about 10 minutes away.
Hi there. Why does it taste like crab cakes, Drew?
Hey there, hello. I'm back. Here I am, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2.
Yes, out of those 800, 2 attendees and 2 workers tested positive. All 4 tested positive before the event.
So, you know, working in the journalism world for more than 3 decades, you see a lot of change, but nothing like we've seen between 2019 and 2020, right? So I thought to myself, what did everybody click on? What did we consider news in 2019 as opposed to the heavy pandemic and racial tension and all that we're seeing in 2020. It's funny to look back and say, what was news last year? Well, CNN put out a list of the top 100 clicked on digital stories, so the most popular stories that people clicked on for CNN, and I thought this was fascinating. Of the top 10, 5 were about Hurricane Dorian. That's understandable. Unfortunately, 2 were about shootings, 1 on the impeachment process and President Trump. But at number 7, 7th most clicked item for CNN was the $4.99 rotisserie chicken at Costco. Are you on that Costco rotisserie chicken team? I wasn't even aware of this. My wife might have been. She does the grocery shopping. I wasn't aware. But the minutia that we love as Americans is kind of funny. In fact, their article went into great detail about how Costco fights to keep this at the price it's at. They have, in this article, they said they've actually lost money because of keeping that rotisserie chicken. They even opened a $450 million poultry complex of its own in Nebraska to keep these chickens inexpensive. The article also said that they put it in the back, and this article said that they think it's so you have to walk through everything else at Costco before you get there, because let's be honest, you can't leave Costco without buying something other than what you came for. So, the minutia rolls on for us, doesn't it, as Americans? We love this stuff. And to be honest, 2020 is so heavy, I'm on team minutia. So, embedded in the heavy headlines, hopefully, I'll be looking for those little things that make us happy. But that's just my 2 cents. Oh, by the way, Katy Perry had a baby. And that's your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts right now.
A trail of devastation. These are just some of the scenes we're seeing out of Louisiana just days after Hurricane Laura